Good evening, everybody. Jazz Views here with CJ Shearn, and I'm coming at you on a Friday night, just kind of inspired by watching videos of people talk about their collections and, displaying their hauls or whatever. And this actually isn't a haul at all, but it's, I feel, one of the centerpieces in my collection, and that is, ta-da, Miles Davis, The Complete Live at the Plug Nickel, 1965. Now, excuse me, this set was one that I've had now for ah, 14 or 15 years. I remember I bought it in college. I had got the initial sampler of the Plug Nickel, highlights from the Plug Nickel. And me, I'm one of those people who love box sets, and I really like hearing complete outpourings of music, whether that be studio sessions or a live set. Whether it's an entire week of gigs somewhere or something like that. I've always enjoyed hearing a complete series of gigs. And, the Miles Davis Quintet, the second quintet with Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Tony Williams, has always been one of my favorite Miles groups. And even before I heard Kinda Blue, I heard ESP. And I had gotten that when I was 5. And you might wonder, how does a 5-year-old even want uh, a Miles Davis tape? Well, I was a huge jazz fan since birth, basically, and my mom, she always picked me up jazz records as well as classical records. I used to have a whole bunch of those CBS Great Performances classical records. Anyway, so, and my throat is really dry today, so I'm sorry about that. But, the Complete Live at the Plug Nickel, 1965, just something that I feel is the pinnacle of the Miles Davis Quintet. And of course, Miles had been turning standards inside out from really 1963 when he had George Coleman on tenor saxophone, the great George Coleman, who is still around today, just absolutely playing terrifically. And I really got to hear his Smoke Sessions album, The Master Speaks. But, A Master Speaks, rather. But, the Miles Davis Quintet and the Complete Live to Plug Nickel represents a real turning point in the evolution of that band. I think in no small part to Wayne Shorter, because Wayne Shorter's playing, he's always been such a melodic player, and I feel that his compositional acumen overshadows just how great of a player he is. And the way he just solos on these 8 discs is just masterful. I mean, he's playing somewhat in the manner of Sonny Rollins, in the sense that he's taking the themes and sort of running with the themes and investigating different aspects of the themes. But then he just takes things to an entirely different level. And then that rhythm section of Hancock, Carter, and Williams, I mean, forget about it. They're just so in tune with each other, playing in time, taking things out of time. Herbie, obviously, reharmonizing things, using substitute harmonies, etc. It's just really, really great stuff. And um, you know, the more and more you listen to jazz, you can pick up like the natural song forms, and you could start to recognize the the chord changes, even if you're not a musician. And you know, what you notice tremendously on this set, by far, is how many liberties the group is taking. I mean, Tony Williams was famously said, "Hey, let's play some anti-jazz." And the set was originally issued in Japan in 1992, and it was a 7 CD set. It still contained the edits that were made by Tio Macero, and the U.S. set restores every note played from that weekend, which is December 23rd. Or, no, it's December 22nd and 23rd, 1965, so just before the Christmas holiday. And, you know, among my personal favorites on the set has to be the second set from the first night, which kicks off with a version of Agitation that really sort of expands on the original and things go further out. Of course, Miles Davis wasn't in the best form on these gigs. He had some hip surgery that he had recently undergone, I think, and he was in tremendous pain still. And, he was struggling to get through the sets, but with that struggle, it's just his soul laid bare, and he has, terrific playing. But the playing of Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, and Tony Williams, as I said, is outstanding and out of this world. Another take I like very much, I think it's on disc 5. So What? It's one of the more outside versions of So What that I've heard. Actually, it may be right up there with the version on Miles in Tokyo with Sam Rivers from 1964, July 1964. And that was a great band too, the band with Sam Rivers. It was very short-lived. Miles didn't really feel that fit was, correct with such an out-leaning saxophone player. But, it was just wonderful, I think. So, the complete live to Plug Nickel, the other thing that's great too, is with the band really stretching things. You start to hear Herbie Hancock really come into his own as far as a player. And I feel from obviously Empyrean Isles, you really start to hear him really develop his conception. The mature Herbie Hancock solo and comping conception. And there's some great solos, and also how he basically channels the entire history of the Miles Davis quintet piano chair. I mean, there's a version of No Blues, I think it's on disc 7, and he's basically dipping into a Wynton Kelly vocabulary, which is a joy to hear. I mean, he simultaneously seems to reference Red Garland, Bill Evans, Wynton Kelly, all in one terrific swath of playing throughout these sets. And some sets, they stay a little bit more tethered than others, but it's just a terrific set. It's gone out of print in recent years and has gone for astronomical prices, but I don't plan on giving the set up. It's one of the crowns of my collection, I feel, along with Jimmy Smith, the complete February 1957 Blue Note sessions, Hank Mobley, the complete 50s Blue Note sessions, the Herbie Hancock, the complete Columbia album collection, 1972 to 1988, which I picked up last year. I finally pulled the plug on it because I wanted that since it came out, and that's an amazing box set. I'll have to do a little video review of that one sometime. But really, for me, this Miles Davis set, the complete live to Plug Nickel, is something that is just, there's really no words to describe just how fantastic the music is. Sorry, I was holding it a little low there. But it to me, the only Miles Davis live set of this quintet that even ranks with that is the Bootleg Series Volume 1, Live in Europe, 1967, which is is also terrific because that's towards the end of the quintet's life, and they're playing tunes on those sets that aren't really played much on the live recordings. They were playing a lot of the original tunes, and uh, the the tunes get sort of deconstructed even further, and this is definite turning a little bit closer to free jazz in some ways. And that said, for newcomers to Miles Davis, I wouldn't recommend it for newcomers just because the music is so dense. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's so much deconstruction and reconstruction that for those who kind of just want to listen to music in the background, it's a little disconcerting. And personally, I don't listen to jazz as a background music. I always listen to jazz completely fully focused. So if you just want to have Miles Davis that you play in the background, this this wouldn't be the particular set of music to do so. And also, if you're only familiar with Kind of Blue and Sketches of Spain and Bitches Brew, this might be a little bit shocking because, like I said, the amount of deconstructing and reconstructing is so um, mammoth. But this, the complete Live at the Plug Nickel 1965 by Miles Davis, easily a 10 out of 10 for me. And I have the set archived in WAV files on my laptop and external hard drive, but there's nothing like playing a real CD. Also, I just want to mention before I go here, I just completed a podcast with guitarist Brian Caston that will be uploaded on the New York Jazz Workshop School of Music blog next week. And Brian Caston, if you've not heard Brian Caston, he's an absolutely original and eclectic guitarist. His new album, Not So Standard, talking about Miles Davis turning standards inside out. This guy does some unbelievable things with the standards, and you really got to hear the record. And for fans of people like Wayne Krantz or David Fuzinski, there's a lot to like there. Also, I want to mention that I'm going to be uploading reviews to my blog of 3 recent ECM albums. Anouar Brahim, the terrific outist, has an album called Blue Macams out featuring Django Bates on piano, Dave Holland on bass, and Jack DeJohnette on drums, and it's terrific. I'm also going to be reviewing the new Gary Peacock Trio album called Tangents, which follows hot on the heels of the first Gary Peacock Trio album last year, entitled Now This. I will also be, well, actually, I just reviewed it. Avishai Cohen, Cross My Palm with Silver, which is a terrific new album with his quartet. So there's a lot in store for the New York Jazz Workshop podcast and blog, which I am the staff writer and creator of the podcast for, as well as my own blog, Jazz Views with CJ Shearn, which is what this YouTube channel is a supplement to. So, as always, peace, love, groove, and keep swinging, everybody.